Okay, welcome to another episode. So we have Lyra here today.
Hello.
And Lyra, we kind of this week we don't really have a very specific topic to talk about, but just looking around at all the news and different discussion. But early on, here in this show, we cover a lot of American politics. Just thinking about recently, there's kind of like a divergence between the conservative movement. You have those people like Tucker, Steve Bannon, really going for America first, and they are like, we don't want any foreign interventions at all. Then you have the other side of the coin, people who are saying that, look, greatness may include, doing certain things. So, but you were kind of like framing it in terms of it for Malaysian context also, right? Because right now we have the Sabah elections, and you get that kind of mix, right? People are saying that, look, for Sabah or for whatever, those kind of thing. We talk a lot about the Sarawak perspective, but share with us maybe, I mean, when you look at what's happening in America, is there some similarity, because we are both kind of similar in terms of being rainbow nation, separate nations all come together to kind of having to make covenant. So what's your general take on this?
Yeah, I do think like America and Malaysia are very, very similar. I mean, because of the...
Our flag also.
Yeah, flag, obviously. And also, I guess, like the demographic, because they have so much diverse culture that you don't see elsewhere in many other nations. So from that perspective, I just kind of like just ponder on Malaysia. Like, I mean, what if we are also very much into like certain conservative movement and certain values that we would like to uphold, and yet there is also that capacity to be able to help other nations. Just like Malaysia, I mean, this year we are the ASEAN chairmanship, and in fact, it's kind of like an effort to actually help the whole Southeast Asia to prosper together. And yet there is also that uniqueness that we can also display. But all this thing comes back to that perspective, like whether you are for this nation first, or actually you are in it to make the whole nation great. So, but because obviously Malaysia, you have like, I mean, it's a bit more complex than US perhaps, because of the history that involves, and it's like there is like 4 nations, then there is also a split, then become 3 nations, but 2 other nations are becoming like subservient to Malaya. So then you have this state election coming out. So I was like just wondering what would be the pathway for Malaysia, because I mean, if I look at Tucker Carlson, I don't personally prefer his position, like America first. I felt like that's so isolationist approach, and it's not like really, really great for the advancement of the whole nation. Because if you go back to World War II, I mean, we don't want to be like silent at the face of evil. So that's kind of like the posture. You don't want to be like, when evil comes to your doorstep, only then you start retaliating. And I felt like that's not a position that any nation should take.
It's very interesting you started off with the 4 nation, because I think growing up, we don't have that kind of concept, right? And I mean, even you go back to history books, it is talking about all the Sabah, Sarawak, Singapore, all having some form of independence from British, and then they formed. So they were all legitimate sovereign countries before they joined Malaysia. But then the practicality of it is basically like we joined Malaya, we took the 1957 constitution, and then of course over the next 50, 60 years, totally dominated by Malaya politics. So because of that, now you start to have Sabah, Sarawak especially, and say that, look, we need to fight for ourselves. And I just find it's interesting you use Tucker, because and some people will be like, what has Tucker got to do with Sabah, Sarawak? It actually has a very close relationship, which is, you see a lot of people from Sabah and Sarawak. I mean, we are both Sarawakian, and they have this mindset that, look, whatever happened elsewhere has nothing to do with me. And you see that with a race issue, you see that with religious issue. Every time you have some hoo-ha, remember KK Mart and all those kind of things. Then you see all the very snarky kind of comment from Sarawakian, right? See, it doesn't happen to us here. We are very peaceful. So I just felt it's very, very Tucker-like kind of behavior, almost arrogant, because you are saying that everything is fine, but it's not always going to be fine.
Exactly. I mean, you don't want to be like really. I felt like at the root of this sort of isolationist approach is actually superiority. Like you think you're more superior than the other people, so therefore it's like what happens in the neighbor's household has nothing to do with me. But in fact, we are such a communal people that we can't be like just looking at evil lurking at our doorstep and really just not doing anything about it at all. And so if I were to be honest, I do feel like there is a root of like racism that is underlying this whole isolationist approach. I mean, obviously you need to put the nation interest first, but there is also the part where you can serve a greater purpose. So that's more like my approach, because when I look at all this thing, I felt like, that's not something that I would prefer for my nation. I felt like it's too
But if people
divisive.
say, but I mean, I totally agree with you that there is a sense of superiority. But of course, for Sabah and Sarawak, they will kind of say, look, we have been taken advantage for 60 years. So, I mean, in the recent Sabah election, of course, you see a lot of comments and like James Chin, who is very, very passionate for independence, cessation, whatever you want to call it. But he made a very interesting point, which is basically saying, look, the people need to stand up so that at least the relationship will be more balanced. And I think most people wouldn't disagree with rebalancing of the relationship. So that's why you see the whole tussle with Petronas and all the different company. But where is the balance? I mean, we talk about the 40% revenue sharing with which is ongoing in a court. Actually, very interesting. The Sabah and Sarawak, they are dealing with federal are all very different one.
Yep.
They have their own unit. Custom law. I mean, you're talking about those days in the 70s, how, of course, you have Stephen Fuad, and then you have Rahman Yaakob, kind of both taking different approach, and then, the whole plane crash, Rahman Yaakob got spooked, and he kind of did a devil's deal with UMNO and things like that. But what is the practical step to balance this, because I mean, I think even West Malaysian are saying that, look, Sabah and Sarawak deserve their own right. I think most fair-minded West Malaysian will say that.
Yeah, I think that's a interesting progression that Malaysia has had also, where, but I just feel like,
or maybe they don't quite realize how much revenue is contributed by Sabah and Sarawak.
I think so.
I mean, if they know that the tap will be shut off, I think they will have a different kind of. I mean, basically, Sabah and Sarawak subsidize a huge part.
That's why I felt like there should be a tightening approach as well. Like you tighten your belt as you give more rights to the deserving states. And I mean, obviously, it comes back to because we have a super bloated government. So that part, I mean, yeah, it's just like company. You want to do restructuring, you want to do a rebalancing, that's totally fine. But
something has to give, right?
Exactly. Like some, I would say a bit more redundant operation will always be the first that goes. So I think in this case, I mean, not saying the whole civil service is like not redundant. It's just that maybe there's some streamlining that can also happen concurrently with this. Then at least it's a more balancing sort of act that can be applauded.
Everyone is saying, right, with automation, with AI, certain low-level jobs are just gone. So, I mean, of course, the technology always pushes for this kind of change. And if people are not ready, then they will be obsolete. So, but of course, if you want to maintain all these dinosaur, all these old wineskin, then eventually you're just going to pay more and more. And the other thing, of course, the other day I was just showing a video clip. I mean, not quite related, but a bit related, talking about healthcare. And really, you think about healthcare and why, there's this economist from Johns Hopkins, and she was just saying, look, healthcare is not a right, because if you say it is a right, you are saying that somebody must pay for my healthcare, and that means whenever you need it, you are dipping into somebody else's pocket. That is not right. Right is like you have a right to express yourself. It doesn't cost people money.
That's why the whole hoo-ha with the Obamacare, right?
Yeah, because you are dipping into somebody else. And the whole lie about Obamacare is, with this, the premium will go down, but the premium went up like 100, 200, 300%.
But how is it like, I guess like for our audience who don't really know about Obamacare, how is it like not beneficial to, say, other insurers?
Okay, because so when you have all the different insurers, so the Obamacare, of course, there is called affordable care, which is so ironic. So they're opening up like for many people, so you can literally sign up and things like that. But the problem is now you sign up for all these things and they start to allow for certain things like abortion and things like that. So somebody has to pay for that. You're paying a basic premium. And then you're saying that all the other insurers have to kind of share the cost. So you put the whole pool together. Previous year, maybe I pay 3,000. I get 500,000 coverage and things like that. I can do this. I can have surgery. I can stay in hospital for 100 days. And now suddenly they say, oh, well, we have to take care of another 500,000 people. Your 3,000 no longer can have this.
So it's kind of like a pool sharing
concept,
so
everything about insurance is pool sharing. It's like, that's why in France, for example, they tried no fault liability for a while. Basically, it's like you will get paid regardless of whether you are wrong or right. And that kind of like just disintegrated after 10 years, because it's like you're just going to cost more and more money. So it's the same thing. So after a while, a lot of people start to realize, hey, my 3,000, if I want the same benefit as the year before, now they say the next invoice is 5,900. Actually, we're seeing that with our insurer now because of the, not so much because you're adding the pool, now it's because of the rising cost.
Exactly.
And I think the other day, my father just renewed his, he somehow, before he was 60 years old, he managed to sign a health insurance. His coverage is good, but then every year, his premium, I think it started from 3,000 per year. And I think last year I had to pay about 13,000.
Wow.
and a lot of people gave up. So eventually, I think this year his 13,000 become 9,000 or 7,000. I can't remember.
Oh.
But they say, well, your total claimable now reduced by 30%, etc., etc., etc. And they're trying to encourage people not to give up their insurance. Right. So that's another way to do it. You maintain the premium or you make it cheaper, but you kind of deduct certain rights. And for some people, that's an acceptable compromise. But anyway, I don't know how we came to insurance. but coming back again, just, how do we, I just remember because you're talking about civil service, right? And it's almost like, look, government need to provide a lot of jobs. So, there are a lot of people who feel like government's job is to find job for me, right?
that is very so true.
So it's like, okay, so how do government provide job? Of course, obviously you can go to the budget and say I'm paying people. But that's really the worst way to provide jobs because you are taking somebody else's money to give to another person. But whereas you should be encouraging businesses, you should be having business-friendly kind of policy so that more jobs will come. That's really open market capitalism. And I guess it's the number one weakness for Malaysia, right? That we just so much waste.
Do you reckon it might be possible, to tackle all this waste? If you have different
it's
states...
It's the behemoths, right?
different states implementing different tax rate?
Well, I think Malaysians have never seen this kind of decentralization. So I don't know if the citizens can cope. Let's have local election first. But you look at states, for example, they have different. States like New York, California have additional state tax. But of course, you have better opportunity there. Then you have federal tax. That's why you look at even NBA players. Of course, they go to play in LA Lakers and things like that, they had to pay two tax, federal tax and state tax. So one of the famous basketball player many years ago, Shaquille O'Neal. So he was kind of poached to Lakers. Then he found out he has to pay two tax. Then he's like, why should I go there? I should just go to Dallas or somewhere, only one tax. Then I think the GM said, oh, don't worry. We'll find 5 movie deals for you. And he calculated, and I'll be making more money. So the bigger market can offer this kind of thing because of the economic power.
But that's the essence of capitalism, isn't it?
Yeah, you let the market dictate. But then, I think we both agree that government need to intervene to help the most unfortunate, the class. Even look at Trump's MAGA, right? He is focusing a lot on those who cannot. Talking about the factory workers and things like that. I think Scott Bessent used the word, right? You have Wall Street and you have the Main Street. So focusing on Main Street, but of course lately I think a lot of the criticism is that he like Trump is not focusing so much on the Main Street. He's just looking at stock price. He's looking at certain things, but it's not an easy balance to do, lor. So even right now, look at Malaysia. All the economic numbers look kind of great, right? We are the best performing currency. Foreign investment is coming in, and unemployment is fine. Those kind of things. But what do you feel are the sentiments on the street? I
think cost of living has been increasing.
But are people like really? You don't hear like people are very angry with Madani, right?
No, not really. I think they do know that there are certain reforms. So I think you just look at the subsidy for petrol. I think that's something I would think it's quite well done. Although I don't quite like the mechanism of how it's being implemented.
Use your IC, but people kind of just accept it, right?
Yeah, I think people are too quick to accept that. But I felt like the whole approach is a way of us pulling away from too much handout. So I felt like that itself.
That part is well done. I do agree.
Is done very, very well. Obviously there are certain people who complain. When those who are in a e-hauling business, obviously the business will get impacted a bit more than the rest of the citizen. But it's just...
are they giving a special kind of allocation for them?
Yeah,
they
I
were
think
saying,
so.
right?
You do need to apply for it and things like that. I thought, okay, that
initially
makes sense.
I read something like quite like 5,000 litre like that, or 6,000. If you do like e-hailing every day, actually it's pretty fast,
Yeah.
You can finish your whole tank like even one day for some people. They go Genting up and down, those kind of thing.
Exactly. But I felt like that part it's done it is quite well managed in that sense. But although I hope that we will be moving away from a lot more government control, in a sense, like digital ID and all this, like Malaysian IC, but basically you're giving too much information to the government. It's not like they don't have the information already. It's just that it's like everything else is gonna be linked to your tax submission and whatnot. So I felt like that part is a bit it's a very, very dangerous area that we will tread into.
And when remember our friend David Tiang came last week and we were just talking, right? Because Sabah elections and the sentiment of the politicians literally is if Madani does well, they are even prepared for an earlier general election, So that kind of sentiment. So is I guess you look at the quality of the opposition, it is kind of sorely lacking, right? But yeah, all these small things, Malaysian are kind of... the only saving grace I would say for Malaysia, we said that during the COVID era, is just our adoption of technology is just poor. So you get a category of people who will just not be able to do it. So government will not be able to be too heavy-handed. But recently, of course, you look at what Transport Minister is doing with the police authority, synchronizing all the Saman system, right?
Yeah, but you have to use digital ID in order to get the discount.
Yes, the discount. I was telling you, right? I think a few weeks ago I went to Malacca and suddenly I was kind of stopped by the police because the registration was not car registration, road tax was not renewed. So my insurance was renewed, but somehow I think someone forgot to do it. But anyway, police let me off with a warning. Then so to renew that, you need to check whether you have certain. So JPJ summon you have to pay, but then police summon are not linked. So at that time I was just doing some research, and they were just started to say that you need the digital ID already. But somehow one of my staff found an agent who was able to use my car number and IC number and just pay off without digital ID. So I don't know, maybe there's still a way around it. But apparently, like what you were saying, to settle using the discounted rate, you need a digital ID registration, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like the thing with DAP, they are very much into control.
Yeah, this is literally like Singapore system and CCP system. So of course they'll say, I mean with many things also. I mean, look at companies shares. They want you to register the beneficial owner and things like that. And of course they say, oh, we're not using the information for now. So what do you mean by for now? Are you going to use it in the future, and for what? Because like for example, this is a clear example that we know. Like people go to Shenzhen, of course, is one of the most digitally connected city in the whole China, and literally you can't really use cash anymore. So they have their QR payment system. So I think somebody was just saying, look, at some point they say, oh, they needed some information. They needed your employment record. They needed your salary record. And it's not even like a survey. Survey you can just simply, they want you to upload your salary slip. Otherwise, you will not be able to continue to use WeChat Pay or whatever. So it's like, do you go off the grid? I mean, you can't even use cash, Not even now, you can see some shops don't want to accept cash, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, our only recourse, if you really, really hate this, is to boycott their business.
But how much can you boycott, right? I mean, if you look
it's heading there. So, I mean, the government ultimate dream is to create a centralized digital currency.
Yeah, that's why there's a group of people who are really like thriving in the States as well. I mean, they are like moving away from all this control and literally create like a local community where you can have like a barter system, or you just buy whatsoever products that you like from these group of people, and they support each other by recommending different businesses to you. And if let's say you want to get a dairy product, you get from this farmer, like so on and so forth. So I felt like perhaps for Malaysia to really move away from that, we need to have like the agriculture sector really thriving, because otherwise then where do you get all the produce? Because otherwise, I mean, everything else would be like, oh, what if the government is mandating like everyone, like a household, you can only get a loaf of bread.
Oh, you can't have meat because you need to meet the carbon net zero.
Exactly. So I think that would be the dream of globalists.
Yeah, definitely. And we eat. I mean, I know people were saying that we're going into the conspiracy realm, but food is really one of the easiest way to control people. And I just feel like Malaysia kind of given up. We were like such a leading producer of many things. Of course, today you go to Kundasang, you go to Cameron, they still have great produce, and many places you can do coffee. I mean, we used to be top rubber. Of course, rubber is kind of hit by synthetic. We are the top pepper producer, cocoa producer. Every time people taste Malaysian single origin chocolate. In fact, recently I think one of the barista won a fourth place in World Barista Championship, and they used I mean, it's quite famous. What do they call it? Liberica beans from Johor supposedly taste like jackfruit and things like that. So you do have. I mean, we had the best durian in the world. So food, it's like an opportunity we can still grab hold of, but not for long, and that will be something. That would be something great, I think, for Malaysia.
Yeah, I mean, I remember you mentioned like even Cameron, the flowers were like very, very much top selling as well.
Yeah, I think we're a number 1, number 2 flower producer in the world right now, which is like, I mean, it used to be Netherlands, and Now I think it's Malaysia and Yunnan are the top flower producer.
Yeah, I mean, so like there's so much potential because there's like so much resources, like natural resources that are untapped, and basically I think people could really go into that pathway, and I mean if we could decouple a bit more from the government, and there is just like enough aid to help this sort of startups, I think that would be like a great pathway for Malaysia.
Yeah, and it's really, and that's the one thing I would say why I do support the movement in Sabah and Sarawak. Not because I want this country to be split into three, not at all. Because I feel like when you do that, then government will start to, you start to see PMS and say, oh, Sabah you can have this, Sarawak you can have this, maybe eventually Selangor you can have this, Johor you can have this, because everyone wants. So it's like the federal state balance. In 1957, our original constitution, when it was first drafted, it was considered world class, first of a kind, because it's like, wow, you have very clear demarcations of state and federal power, and the constitution clearly say natural resources belongs to state.
Exactly.
And then you get you get Petronas, PDA, all those kind of things come, and the courts basically didn't do their job. So that's why you can understand why people are frustrated. But at the same time, I feel there is a great opportunity to make us great again. It is. I think, is it last week? Did we say this in this show or in doing our informal talk? We talk about EU. They say European Union used to be. A lot of people like not European Union, like Europe before they become European Union.
Yep.
Because I want a leather seat. We have so many car manufacturers. You have the French, you have the Italian, you have the German. Okay. Nobody takes the French car manufacturer seriously, but you want something nice, and the Germans say I have too much order. Then you can go to Belgium. Then you can go to Italy. Now it's like everyone is just cookie cutter. You have no specialty. You have no uniqueness anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about that as well, that very example. And I thought, hey, I mean, wouldn't it be great for Malaysia if, let's say, every state is like pre-European Union, and basically you have like the unique flavor, unique expression of each state, and actually, I think that's how you promote like tourism in Cuti Malaysia, literally encourage people to travel around the whole of Malaysia. I think what great tourism would that be,
And you see the very successful, like I mentioned, I went to Malacca, and you can see they are very successful in their tourism because they are able to portray their uniqueness. You have all the Nyonya food. Of course, you have Handua. Handua already kind of written out from the history book, but not in Malacca. Handua is everywhere in Malacca. You go further down a bit, nearer to Tangkat, then is Gunung Ledan. Just right behind. All those kind of things. So it's like they kind of leverage on your strength. So you look at Sabah, Sarawak have nice highlights. Sabah have great beaches. So leverage on the strength. But of course, we still go back to the big elephant, right? How do you reduce the waste?
Exactly.
Now let me ask you: Do you feel like the government is trying? You see a lot of high-profile investigation. You see a lot of high-profile persecution. I don't know if you read about it. It's a big news for the law community that quite a few bank officer and even legal firm staff were charged with bribing.
Wow.
Basically, it's like they say the legal firm pay them not a lot of money, 5,000 to 10,000, so that the bank officer refer the case to the firm, and that is considered bribing. Okay, but anyway, you know why I'm laughing? Because it's such a common practice everywhere. And of course, Bar Council come out and say, "Oh, this is very bad. We'll investigate." But everyone does it. Of course, all this is not considered very serious kind of. They got fined and things like that. But it just shows like, you have a lot of this kind of news. Do you think the government is serious about eradicating?
I think I mean, I do think they are serious. I do think that's one of the things that they are advocating. I mean, no doubt about it. I just felt like it's the way that they flex their power is like we can do it to anyone. So I don't think people will feel very, very happy about this whole thing. I mean, obviously we are all for like free corruption-free nation. But the thing is, the way to do it, you have to cause people to be able to flourish in the system. But right now, policies are not great for business making, and so all this thing comes back to the government. Like, hey, I mean, are you actually creating an environment that encourages people to do business more, or actually you're causing people to move away? Just like Mandani in New York, it's like, okay, you want to provide free buses, but where do you get the money? So you can't be like taxing the rich forever. So I felt like on that perspective, so like if you want to eradicate corruption, you can't just have one way solution by just taxing the rich. I think it doesn't work that way. You also have to like reform a lot of many things, and especially starting with government policy. So if all these things are not favorable for investments, favorable for business, why would people want to like make more money also?
Now, do you feel, I mean, of course, we cover the Trump's visit, and in general, I mean, you look at like the Edge and all those business publication, it seems like they feel like because the tariff is fixed at 19%, the investment will come in. So this is a bit of more certainty, and people are not worried that, you know, maybe in 3 months' time we have to adjust and things like that. So do you feel because of that, there's a bit less strife on the government side? And I think I haven't heard PMX say Mahakaya for a while.
Yeah. I mean, that
Do you think it's
actually,
related to the whole thing? I mean, I felt like there's a bit of correlation.
I do think there is a bit of that also. Like, really, I think that whole state visit by Trump administration, I think it's just really a very favorable
And the macroeconomic
decision
kind
for
of show
Malaysia.
that in terms of the investment flow, currency strength. But of course, you know, the Main Street people, whether their life is better or not, there's a separate issue.
Yeah, I think so. That's where this would be a great time for PMX to really just look into the issues that are affecting the Main Street and how he can actually help people without actually giving more handouts. I think because we are decoupling from that. I mean, so subsidy is a great way of like, I mean, the petrol subsidy is one of the first move and a great move also. So we shouldn't just stop at one movement. We should continue the momentum while there is still momentum.
Yeah, I think so. And because he was really facing a bit of siege, right? I mean, from the Malay base because of the Gaza issue. Now that it's settled already. Then even from his own party, you know, Rafizi, they're all still criticizing him for... I mean, I think it's okay to talk about whether the deal was good or not. But I just felt like a lot of them, you know, they kept harping on the clause 5.1 and things like that. But it doesn't have a lot of sting. I don't feel it. You know, it's more like they're doing it for the sake of talking. So he does. I mean, I agree with you. The government does have an opportunity to push through and make it even better. But would they do it, and would they be able to do it? I mean, even we didn't really cover the budget, right? But even this time budget, you don't hear a lot of resistance, right? Because actually it's a lower budget. So government is conscious we don't have so much money. Yeah, but you have to try to cut the waste.
Yeah, I mean, this would be a great time for the Overton window for Malaysia. Basically, you have a period where people are more accepting towards certain values. And this will be a great time for people to really just learn to... I mean, we just need to like tighten the belt as a nation, and then we will get through it to a place of prosperity.
I mean, you mentioned this, and I think one related point is really... you know, a lot of people, we talk about there's such a strong Trump derangement syndrome everywhere. But one thing, even those who hated him will agree, he's a businessman. And so I just felt like somehow, you know, with his visit and things like that, people are kind of like, oh yeah, it's okay to say business first. So you get, I felt like you get this kind of a bit of general consensus here that, hey, let's, I mean, the business community actually loved the trip because they felt the certainty was established. But even the normal, the pasar auntie uncle, the social commentator, they'll be like, yeah, it's okay to focus on business. And he wasn't so bad, he didn't come and embarrass Malaysia and things like that. I think people kind of appreciate that from him. And I don't know, I mean, it may sound a bit presumptuous that people are even saying, hey, this could be the beginning of great deals between the two nations. But anyway, I mean, we kind of go over the place, but anything else that kind of, I mean, we didn't really talk about the news, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah, but maybe next week, I think it's just before the Sabah election. Let's talk again. I mean, I'm not really interested to talk about the result, but it's more like what is the psyche of the people, It's like, what do they want? And because Sabah, I mean, they always say Sabah is very different from Sarawak, and don't even mention Malaya, it's totally different. But I feel you get a group of people like that in Malaysia, that maybe there are other people with the same passion.
Exactly.
But anyway, we're just previewing the next couple of weeks, but I think our time kind of ran out already.
Yep.
So until next time.
Right.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.